guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. We have a lot going on. Well, I mean, it's May, so we're going to always have a lot going on this time of year. But I say that because Chad and his crew just showed up this morning and they're starting to excavate the area behind the barn. Yay. So we get to start working on like that whole section.
Yeah.
Which is so exciting. It's so exciting to me to see movement back there because it's hard for me to watch. Even though we don't want the whole area to be sod like it is now, it's hard to watch it die.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, we've had enough rain to keep it nice for a fairly long time, but it's looking...
Well, it's going to look really bad before it starts looking better.
But I think this time around, as opposed to the South Garden, I think this time around we've got it dialed in a little bit more how to get things done.
Yeah.
And how to, make... Well, I guess we just know the order of things.
Yeah. And
we know who to ask and when to ask them to do it. And so I feel like we'll have it buttoned up and looking pretty good by the end of the season.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. That is the goal. Okay, so before we get into the videos from this past week, I did want to let you know we are smack in the middle of a sale on our website on all Power Planter products. They're all 20% off, no codes necessary.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. Oh, through the 23rd. Thursday
Yeah.
the 23rd. Did I already say that?
Maybe.
Thursday the 23rd.
Do you remember when we got our first Power Planter? Did they send us like a bundle,
Yeah,
right?
they sent us the drill and everything.
That was such a like a game-changing moment,
It
I remember.
It really was.
Because up to that point, we had used non-Power Planter augers and bent them.
Oh, yeah.
And
it
you
wasn't
were kind of
even
down
worth
on it. Yeah, it was like it wasn't worth using them because it's like, it's not going to hold up. Mm-hmm. But then we used what they sent us.
Yeah.
And that was so nice of them to send us. And it was like a no strings attached, too. Do you remember? Like, they just sent it. And
so try it.
It wasn't like they contacted us and they're like, if you make 7 videos, then we'll send you this. They were just like, try our product, you'll love it. And we were like,
what?
This is amazing.
This is amazing. And now the 2 and 3 inch, if you plant a lot of bulbs or a lot of 4-inch plants, a lot of annuals, we have the Laura edition, the 2 and 3 inch widths, and they're awesome. I think they're even better just because we've been able to, and they've been awesome to work with us to make something that works best for me, really.
For your purpose.
Every time I use a tool, or like the kneeling pads that we have now. I just saw one of you guys posted on Garden Answer Groupies, and it made me so happy to see this post. She said something to the effect that, she bought a kneeling pad because she wanted to support us, but she just thought, nothing's going to be as good as the big, cushy, like thick one from Gardeners. And then she got it and started using it, and she was like, this is the best.
Yeah.
Like, this is the best kneeling pad I've ever used. And they are. And I'm not just saying that because this is our kneeling pad. It's truly like...
Well, it's like a product that you feel like is the best.
Yeah. So every time we get something like that, I'm thinking like, how can I make this better? Or how can I make it more efficient for myself or lighter weight, easier on my body? And so it's nice to be able to kind of refine those products to make them do that.
I think I can see why they stopped selling them, though, because it's a bear to ship.
They are a little bit of a beast to ship, but they are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have them available in a smaller size as well, eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
They're on their way, I think.
Yeah.
We shall see when they arrive. No pre-orders this time. We waited way too long for that first order to come in. Anyway, all that said, Power Planters 20% off at gardenanswer.com through Thursday the 23rd. Okay, first video from this past week was what, when, and how to deadhead plant bulbs, and then planting flower seedlings. I did Rudbeckia and Echinops, which are a globe thistle. So I just went through which bulbs I want to naturalize and how to let them do that, because some of them, like snowdrops, like crocus, muscari, there's a whole bunch of other ones, but some of those, especially smaller bulbs, will spread by like little bulb offsets down below the soil surface, but they'll also spread by seed. So I showed you inside a seed pod of a snowdrop. And if you let those dry and mature and then kind of open and spread on their own, that's one way to help them naturalize. So I just went through those steps, and then what we do with tulips and daffodils. So tulips, you do want to deadhead those, especially if you want them to stick around. Tulips aren't as good at sticking around as daffodils. Daffodils, you can leave alone. You don't need to deadhead them. You just wait till the whole thing kind of dies back and yellows, and then you cut everything off at ground level. But tulips, some of them will try to set seed, and that takes a tremendous amount of energy. So if you can eliminate that and have that energy rather go into the bulb, you have a more higher rate of survival with those bulbs.
What happens if you just leave it and don't touch it?
What? The tulips?
Tulips, yeah. Will they like naturalize more if you just let them go to seed, or you have to actually take the seed and do something with it, or?
I just take the stalk off.
No, let's say you don't touch it.
I think you'd have less of a survival rate.
Really?
Because they're so bad at it anyway. That those bulbs need all the energy they can get.
They must survive somewhere naturally, though, right?
Yeah, probably. Some better than others. First question was Horse Casper said, where do you get your drip tape? Have you had okay experiences with the Drip Depot website? That's a you question.
Yeah, no issues.
No issues?
It's all kind of the same. I mean, it's like Toro brand, I think, is the... You can probably get it other places than Drip Depot if you find it cheaper. So... But I haven't had any complaints. So, yeah.
Works really well. Becky said, cracking up at your nonchalant, who are you, to the cat. Yeah, there was a random, like, Siamese-looking mix cat that was just chilling in the west side flower bed. It had a collar on, though, and it took off toward the subdivision over there. So
it's not that uncommon. I see a lot of rando cats on the cameras.
A lot. Question, why can't the tulip bulbs just stay in the ground until next year? Well, those in the cut flower garden where I was talking about it, those are going to be lifted and stored because I want to plant other flowers for cutting in their spots. And if we just let them yellow and die back and cut them off, there would be nothing there for the rest of the season. In that space, I really want to kind of churn through the crops and utilize that space to the best of our ability. And lifting the bulbs and storing them, that's going to be a fun experiment. I've never done that before with tulips. All the rest of ours that we plant out in the flower beds, we leave. Amanda said, how do your Rudbeckia Sahara do in a vase? Mine droop almost instantly. I've tried cutting at all different stages of the bloom. The secret? I don't know. I've never experienced that. I mean, it kind of depends too, I guess, a little bit on time of day. They do like to be cut first thing in the morning. If that's possible, that's better. And I usually cut mine when they're open. Like they're kind of fully open. I don't cut them at bud stage. So I'm not sure. I've just never experienced that. Brittany said, what's the secret to growing tulips and daffodils with such beautiful long stems? Some of mine bloomed so close to the ground, making it harder to use as a cut flower. I was worried about that with these. The best purple variety, they were very short. When they were starting to bud up, they were like this. And I thought, oh, that's not one I'm going to repeat. For some reason, they just like, they elongated out before they started to bloom. And every single variety out there ended up performing beautifully. And I don't know I think weather has something to do with it. If you have too warm of a winter, they can start coming up early, but it also can mess with the way they grow, their growth rate in that current year. Anyway, it worked out. I feel like I have no good answers for any of these questions. Like, well, it could be this. I hate that. Like it's the watering question. Right. How much water do I give this plant exactly? Like a quarter cup, a half cup?
Well, we were talking about that with your dad last night about how plants look the same if they're getting too much water or too little water. And he was saying like, if they get too much water, then the roots will start to. What was he saying?
The little white roots that come out, the real healthy ones that are taking up the water, those rot, and so the plant actually
can't take up water.
So it droops and it's like
it looks like it's because it's not getting water.
Right, it's withering up,
even
like
though it's sitting
dry.
In water.
Yeah. He also told me to tell all of you guys, if you have extra Hollytone, use it on your grass. He just did that because there were a couple of broken bags of Hollytone down at the garden center, and he spread it on the grass, and the grass is gorgeous.
Yeah.
So he's like, whatever you have, whatever tone it is, just spread it everywhere. It's awesome. Sophie Babe said, did any neighbors see this video and call to claim the cat? No, so the cat must have made it home. Chelsea said, serious question. I just started using Biotone and need to know how you get the smell out of your hands. I've been scrubbing under my nails and it's still lingering. Are you using fancy heavy-duty soaps? No, I probably just smell like it all the time, and I'm so immune, I probably don't even realize it anymore. Because I grab it with my bare hands a lot.
You know what it is? I think that it actually gets in your nose, and you think it's on your hands, but it is on your hands, but it's more actually that it's in your nose, and you need to I don't know, because I get that, not as much with the other stuff, but the soil acidifier. Oh. That is the worst.
It's pungent.
And that's not even that's Espoma sells it, but it's not like something that's proprietary to them. You can get soil acidifier anywhere, but that's a smelly product. And oh man, it's bad.
It is.
That'll stick with you for a while.
I don't know. I think I doing so much out there and getting all up in the dirt and all that, I think stuff just wears off too. Because the only thing I ever smell in my hands that lingers horribly bad is if I am mincing up garlic and I use my hand, because I usually cut the garlic cloves into smaller pieces before I start mincing it, and that will stick on my fingers. Oh, I actually don't like that. Monica loves it. She's like, loves the garlic smell. And, it's a little much for me. Heather said, can you dig up the bulbs with the leaves on and leave out in the sun for the greenery to dry up and then store? No, you need to leave the bulbs in the ground with the greenery up and healthy, not wilting, laying out somewhere, because that greenery needs to take in the sunshine and just absorb it and send it to the roots. And it can't do that properly if it's being just lifted and let in to dry that way. Relma said, don't you have to cold stratify the bulbs? Not if you are, like in this case, so I'm letting them die back in the cut flower garden. We'll cut back the foliage, lift the bulbs, and then you store them just somewhere cool, not like in a stratification, not in a really cold area. You only need to stratify them if you live in too warm of a climate and you need to pop them in a fridge or something like that for a certain amount of weeks so they get that amount of cold period, and then you can plant them out and have the blooms. But if I'm just taking mine out of their storage and planting them in the ground like I do all my other bulbs, then they will get the cold period they need. They'll get that stratification process, the stratification period over the course of the winter, because they'll be sitting there subjected to all that cold, and they should hopefully perform like they did this year. It'll be so sad if we do the whole thing, plant them all up, and they just are meager performers after that.
Yeah.
That would bum me out. Marissa said, how do you keep your strawberries from getting eaten by insects? Almost all of my strawberries get nibbled on by something. You know, a lot of people will put straw underneath their strawberries so that when the strawberries, form, they will be laying on straw rather than on soil, and it does kind of move them up from insects just a little bit. We've baited ours before with the bug and slug killer, which works really nicely, and it's got like spinosad in it. It's an organic product. There's one other thing in it. But it helps with like slugs, snails, roly-polies, earwigs, things like that, and that helps tremendously too. Next video is plans for the new land, a greenhouse organized, and a huge annual load. It was a really busy day. We had several crews here working. I stopped and went through our plans for the area behind the barn, and I think Taylor did a fantastic job editing that. He had like little arrows going through the property and would highlight. Yeah, he'd highlight sections that I was talking about, and for me, I'm such a visual person that was even helpful for me to watch it through. And then we organized the greenhouse so that we could fit some of the more tender annuals in there, like basil and coleus. And then we readied the high tunnel. Paul and Bethany were working on that while we were working on the greenhouse, and they got it all organized and cleared out so we could put the rest of the annuals in there. And we had a concrete crew here.
Yeah.
They were working on random concrete projects around the property, and Burke Electric was here running a new electrical line from our barn to the well that is in the property that we bought.
Yeah,
because
it was running. There was electric running from our neighbor's house, but we can't use that anymore. Obviously,
right.
When you redraw the lines,
he doesn't want to pay for it.
Yeah, he doesn't want to pay for it. So yeah, we have to all the infrastructure. We have to make it come from us as opposed to from him. So
yeah,
that's why
it was just kind of an all over the place video.
Yeah.
Project, I felt like. Heather said, just wondering what your ordering process is for your annuals. Do you plan out all of your containers and in-ground planters prior to ordering, or do you just order random annuals and go from there? A little bit of both. If there are projects like the planting areas beneath the maples on the west side, I like to make sure I have enough of the one thing that I want to plant them all. If we've got like the 10 pots on the east fence line, a lot of times I like those to coordinate, so I make sure to have enough of everything. And I did that this year, but we ended up doing something different, which you will see, I think, in tomorrow's video.
Monday?
Yeah. So all the plants that I ordered for those pots are I'm going to go plant my parents' pots up on their driveway, and I'll bring you along for that project. But anyway, yeah, so then I will also have a list of plants to have on hand. They're plants that I know that I will use a lot of, like 5 flats of Supertunia Bordeaux, 5 flats of lemon coral sedum, 3 flats of this, 2 flats of that, and I just kind of go through knowing a little bit how I like to use plants and where they might go, and then I just kind of pick from them. Yeah. Okay, Silly Girl said, how exciting, all of your projects on the new property look amazing. Are you planting at the college this year? We are not. We decided to forego that project this year, and it really...
They're still doing it.
They are.
They placed a big Proven Winners order, so they've got a bunch of plants, I think. Did they get Proven Winner stuff?
Oh, I don't know. I'm guessing they did a mix of stuff.
Oh, yeah. I guess I don't know. In my mind, I thought they did. But, yeah, so... They're planted up.
Yep. We've done it for 2 or 3 years?
3 years, I think.
3 years. It was a tremendous amount of work in the month of May, and there's just too much going on. Too much going on around here, and this has been the year of refining and evolving our process, and focusing on different things. And the kids are both doing things. Benjamin is doing things. He just finished up the first grade, and I can't believe he's gonna be a second grader. And he is doing piano lessons now, and Samantha's in ballet, and we dedicate time for that. And, you know, just trying to, like, we went out and swam last night at my parents' house, trying to do a lot more of those kinds of things, which means some things have to give. And home is the most important thing to us, so that's the thing that gets focused on. And, you know, it doesn't mean we won't go do things like that again, but we've got other projects we're going to be working on. I also like to change the type of projects we're working on. I get bored, and so I don't like doing the same things over and over and over again. I like to move around and do other things. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at with that. Sierra said there aren't any horse areas built into this idea. Is that still the plan near the new barn? No, it is not. And we shared that vision in another video because I think I talked about the plan for the Dirtlands area. We are building a new barn, not this year, probably not next year. Maybe not even the year after that, but the plan is to build a new barn in the back center of the two properties out there, the Dirtlands and then the Grasslands, Aaron wants to call it, that we bought this last year. So we're going to meld those two pieces of property together, build a barn in the back half, and then there will be 4 half-acre paddocks in front of that barn. Everything will be connected beautifully, and that's where the horses will be. We decided it was weird to have horse barn here and horse pasture up there with no real way to connect it. We'd have to walk the horses up to the paddocks in this area, but the barn would be back here. Plus the barn is actually, like, I don't even know how horses walked in and out of that barn.
Yeah, it didn't seem ideal for what we're shooting for. I mean, everybody does horses differently.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of different ways to have horses.
I want fans and automatic waterers
yeah.
and all those kinds of things. And we're using that barn so much for storage right now that it might just be kind of where our storage area is. And I'm so thankful to have it right now.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It'll be nice to have a little more storage on the property.
Yeah.
That's what we'll use it for.
Yeah. I should have mentioned that in the video because I did notice a lot of questions. We know what's going on with the horses. Aren't you going to get horses? You didn't even talk about it. I didn't even think to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because in my brain, it kind of moved on from that being back here. It's all up there now. Tina said, how was the black widow population at the high tunnel this year? Any activity since the garden infestation? I haven't seen any yet this year, and I've looked in a few. I haven't looked in a lot of irrigation boxes, but the activity usually you don't notice it until later in the season when it's a little bit warmer. And we are not gardening that section or that strip anymore, and we're going to be moving the high tunnel out to the Red Barn area, so that area is going to become pasture. Right in that space. You just mowed it down. It looks so much better.
Yeah.
And then Paul came along and cleaned up all the weeds along the fence line with the weed eater, and it looks very, very tidy right there. Joanne said, can you do wildflowers on the slope? Possibly. It's really hard to dedicate any effort to an area that you 100% don't look at any point.
Right.
Ever.
And it's north facing.
Yeah. So it doesn't get a lot of sun. It's so steep. So we can't really use it for much.
Honestly, I feel like that should be where we throw a lot of our debris because it's just on a slope that literally no one sees, and just let it break down on the slope. Does that bother you?
A little bit. I don't like having just random dump areas. I mean, we have a random dump area, so I don't know why I'm even saying that, but
yeah.
I don't know
no
the viability,
way.
How long can you do that before?
Well, it's a huge slope area, and again, like you said, no one sees it. So you're as it breaks down over the course of years, you're just creating more square footage property for yourself.
I guess. I don't know. It's just what happens though. I mean, you've got the slope, you dump stuff down. What happens? I don't want it tumbling down into neighbor's property. I don't know.
There's a fence down there that would stop it.
Yeah.
I don't think anything could tumble.
I don't like spots that I can't keep controlled. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. Because if you dump, you're not going to go and retrieve it.
No,
there's no machine that is going to go in there and clean it up. So from that standpoint, but right now, there's just a bunch of weeds growing in it, and I think
we might rent Bethany's pigs to come eat down the weeds on the hillside.
See if we can get some goats, maybe.
Yeah,
goats would probably love it. All steep.
Yeah, maybe. I have no interest in keeping goats, really, or pigs, but it'd be fun for a very short time. The kids would probably love it.
Well, maybe we could get a couple goats just to keep the weeds down.
Yeah.
They can live in a corner of the barn.
Yeah, we'll just move them around the property.
Yeah.
Sona Lizelle said, what is the mountain range to your north? So if you keep going north, you get into the Payette National Forest area, and that's where we have shown you, like where we've done some cutting and foraging for winter containers. It's a beautiful mountain area.
Yeah.
I love it. Fish and Rod said, Laura, why don't you want a flagpole? Your kids are so patriotic. It would be beautiful blowing the wind. The kids are patriotic. They both know the national anthem and America the Beautiful. They love to sing those songs. And I was just talking to you about the flag last night, Aaron. Remember on the way home from my parents' house? Because I saw the flag is just kind of folded up by the front door. We usually have it hanging off the front of the house. It's faded. We need to get a new one. So maybe we can get one ordered today. I like having them where Aaron has it installed on the front of our house. I just can't see a flagpole in front of the house. To me, it looks a little bit more like you're driving up to a school or like a government building or a library or something like that. And it just doesn't seem as homey to me as one off the front of the house. So we will have one flying here soon-ish, as soon as we get a new one. Becky said, lots of fun ahead, but I do have a question. Where do you find your pot mover / hauler? A small dolly / truck is just too small for my large pots, and I've been looking for a larger one.
I don't remember where we got that. I remember that I spent a long time typing in a lot of different keywords like hand truck, pot mover. And I want to say that it was fairly expensive. Like I want to say it was over $500. But
was it really?
Yeah, if you use it a lot, and we do.
We've tried out a few. I can't remember the brand of the ones we tried out in the past.
Well, there was that Pot Wheels with a Z, remember? And we kept. They had a couple different types. I think they stopped selling it.
Did they?
But I think we busted up.
Yeah,
all of them.
There's a reason why they stopped.
The one that we have is the best.
It is.
So I don't have a link. I don't remember where we got it, but I did have to search a while to find one that looked heavy duty enough.
Do you think you'd have any remnants of an email
somewhere?
Well,
I could look through my emails and try to find it, but it was a number of years ago.
Yeah.
But I know that's a common question, so I should try to find it.
If we find it, we'll put it in the description below the video. And Rosen said, where do you get your greenhouse tables? We built those. Aaron built the first few, and then Eddie, who did a bunch of projects for us around. He built our flower shed and the fence around the vegetable garden. He did the beautiful molding in Benjamin's room. He just did a bunch of projects around the house. He built a few, and then Paul has built a few. And we were talking, we probably need, I don't know how many more tables we could use. I know I could use one more in this greenhouse here. And then in the high tunnels, it would be nice to have a few more. Right now, along the edges of the high tunnels, which this works perfectly, we use two, what are they called? Cinder blocks stacked on top of each other. And then Paul just made the table tops, which is a 2x4 frame with, brace pieces and then hardware cloth over the top of it. And we just set the tabletops on top of the cinder block legs. And it's perfect because, the sides of the high tunnel, it's much shorter. You can't have really tall tables up there because you wouldn't be able to fit any kind of tall plants. So they're the perfect height. But down the center of the high tunnel, it'd be nice to have. So I'm thinking in those, we could probably use 4, 5, 6 more, which is a fantastic winter project to work on. We have a video of how to build one. Or did you just do a video building the greenhouse table? There is a video that exists of how we build the greenhouse tables.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. It's been a while. Next video was repotting a big Japanese maple, transplanting 3 evergreens, and planting sedum. It was a very busy day, and it was very windy, and it was chilly. It was so chilly. I had to wear my winter coat, which feels weird because the next day I didn't have to wear that or a vest. I was just wearing a regular shirt. Our weather in May can be kind of weird, but I had a Japanese maple. I think it's an autumn moon Japanese maple. I think that looks like the closest variety to what I have in that pot. I wish I could find when I planted that to verify, but it doesn't really matter. The soil level had sunk in that pot almost a foot. So we tipped the pot, pulled out the tree, and put fresh soil in there and got it all repotted and hooked to the drip system, moved to a protected spot by the house. And then Malad Tree Farm, they came out to move 3 evergreens that had already been planted. They were too big to dig up ourselves. I mean, I guess we could have done it if we had several men here to do it, but it was not a project that I was going to tackle. So they bring their truck with a small spade out. They go and they dig the hole and they remove the soil, and then they go dig the tree and then bring the tree over and pop it right in the hole. It's so fast for them. And they were already over here to do a job for somebody else. So they were like, we have our tree spade over here. It's perfect timing if you need anything moved. And we did. So we had 2 blue spruces and a Austrian pine moved, which is perfect. And then in the middle of all that, because I was waiting for Milad to get here, I planted some midnight velvet sedum out in the south garden. First question is from Teratosta. Said, I got a black lace elderberry after seeing them on your channel, but I just saw it needs a buddy plant to bloom. Nope, not true. Do I need a second one if I want blooms? Can it be instant karma? You do not need a second one. You might need a second one to get berries. I don't even know on that one if that's true. You will get bloom though regardless. The thing about those, though, is that you don't want to prune them. If you prune them too late in the season, you will forfeit the blooms for the next season because they bloom on, well, let's see, they bloom on old wood. To produce, yeah. So please note, I'm on the Proven Winners website. To produce berries, you'll need either a Black Beauty, Instant Karma, or laced up elderberry as a pollinator. So you'll still get blooms, you just won't get berries if you don't have a pollinator nearby. Gary said, love your show and family. I have a spot in my new flower garden that is flooded every time it rains. I planted a butterfly bush and it drowned in a couple of days. What can I plant in this spot? Hibiscus. Plant one of the dinner plate hibiscus. They love boggy conditions. And you also said, I want flowers and nothing over 4 feet. Any ideas? Hibiscus. Do that. It will love you and it will look beautiful. Carmen said, how do I get my hands on a watering trailer like that? I've been looking around everywhere for one.
It's expensive. And we went to a local company, GNR Ag.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a local, outfit. What you're probably going to want to find is maybe someone who does like spray tanks for farmers who like spray, like spraying the sides of their fields or things like that. And so when we had them make it, it was kind of out of the norm for them because like all the nozzles and the hoses they wanted to use were for spraying. We were like, no, we want like max flow. Because when you're spraying, you're not actually putting out a ton of like water or pressure at any one time. But for this, we wanted good pressure. And so we got it worked out. It took us a couple of years to find the right, we did a video on this. We could just link that.
Oh, that might be handier.
Because we explained like the pump and I put links, I think, for the generator and the pump that we use. So I'll find that video and we'll just link it down below. And that has all the details.
I think there's a few of my favorite parts about that watering tank because I had a lot of experience with a crappy water tank up to the point that we had this one. Because, I did the container project downtown where we would run a truck up and down the street with the water tank to fill up or to water the pots. The pressure was horrible. It took forever to water because it just didn't allow enough water to come out. You also had to hook it up to your truck for power. And the connection never really worked quite right. And sometimes you'd be sitting there watering and it would just go, and it would just disconnect itself. And you'd have to go wiggle the connection. So this one runs by generator. So it runs all on its own. We don't have to hook it up to the gator. You could just turn it on sitting there, not connected to anything, and you could water some things. I also like, the flow is nice, the fact that it has its own power is nice, and the hose link. So we had Megan, who worked for us for a while. Her husband's a welder, and he came over and he welded a thing onto
like a post?
The trailer, so that a post onto the trailer so that we could put a hose link on there, and it twists almost 360. Plenty of rotation to get our jobs done, and that way we have a retractable hose.
That's true. Having a hose link attached to it is kind of baller.
It's got all of the good things. And I think using one for years kind of makes you realize the things that you need.
Yeah,
it's kind of like what we talked about, using tools and thinking, how can I make this better?
Yeah.
How can I make this job more efficient for myself and quicker and more pleasant? The water tank's awesome. I actually used it yesterday. You filled it up with fertilizer and water so we could water the east pots, and there was so much left. I just went around the property and watered the cut flower garden and watered the high tunnel and some other things. It was really nice. Sheila said, I love that maple. What size is the pot? How much sun will it get and how long does it stay in that pot? Japanese maples, I have found in our area, they do not grow to their full size. So we treat them more as like an ornamental, very small tree, and they can live in a container for quite a long time so long as it's big. Now this one, I want to say the opening is probably close to 30 inches. On the top, I could be off by like an inch or two, but I'm thinking that's pretty close. And it probably stands about, between 20 and 24 inches tall, right around in there. So it's a decent sized pot. So there's a lot of good area for the for extra soil to keep the roots insulated. And then we keep it up close to the house where it's protected from wind and any extreme weather. And that also helps keep it nice for longer as well. And in the area where it's at, will it get sun? Maybe not. It may not even get any sun there, which is fine for our Japanese maples. They may not color up quite as vibrantly as they do in sun. In fact, I sent a friend a picture of my Katsura maple because she was trying to help me identify what this one was that we repotted. And she was like, what? That is a Katsura? Look at mine. She lives in the Seattle area. Hers is like, oh, it's like very bright and very vibrant. And there's like a little bit of orangish or yellow kind of tint on the leaves. Mine looks nothing like that. Mine is just like chartreuse, but like a little bit of a muted chartreuse. And I love it where it's at. It's like the perfect color. But they just don't get as vibrant if they don't get quite as much sun. We can put our Japanese maples in morning sun here, some morning sun, but they have to be protected in the afternoon. That doesn't mean, I don't know where you live, so you might be living in an area where you could put it in sun all day long and it would be just as happy as can be. Sarah said, hi Erin, are you still recommending the EDDHA 6% iron for plants that are a bit chlorotic? With me overtending and with lots of spring rain, I am starting to see some yellow leaves with the green veins. Iron will not fix an overwatering problem.
Mm-hmm.
I've used it in the past, just wondering if you still like it. Your trees are looking glorious.
Yeah, I mean, keep a couple things in mind. Yeah, if they're getting too much water, they can show similar signs, and iron's not going to help. Also, if your soil is a bit on the acidic side, I think the EDDHA is not necessary for you. I think any type of iron would work, and you might even be able to get it cheaper. I don't know. I haven't looked at the prices, but for us, because we have more alkaline soil, we have to use the EDDHA because the other types of iron,
like EDDTA,
yeah, whatever it is, it's just like ineffective past like an 8 on the pH scale or something like that. So anyway, just keep that in mind. But it's not going to hurt to have the EDDHA iron. But to me, I look at that as kind of like the big guns.
Yeah. Lynn said Russell's paws are so cool. Do you know what breed he is? I think he's just a domestic short hair with the recessive polydactyl gene that showed up, and now he's got multiple digits on his front paws. Mr. Lang said it's not the blood good you put in there 2 years ago, is it? That blood good seemed more red in color but the same shape. It's not the blood good. That blood good is in the same pot as this one is, because I had 2 of those pots. It was moved to our front area, sort of by the Persephone garden underneath the blue spruce that we had installed. We moved it there when they worked on the flagstone patio right there by the back kitchen entrance, and I liked it so much in the spot it was moved that we kept it there. So the blood good's still living its best life right there, and it loves that spot. I could actually put more in containers right there, I think. Paula said, I love your videos. Have you been in touch with Jenny and Jerry after the storm caused such devastation at Creekside? I hope all is okay and they are recovering. Yeah, they had a major storm run through, and Jenny and I were texting, so I was in touch with them during that time. It was a very quick turnaround, though. It was like devastation one day, fixed the next day. And that's kind of how it goes with plants. I mean, we didn't have a storm like as severe as that one with like active water running through our property, but we had a massive storm come through one time down at the garden center, and it was flooded from like edge to edge. Like you couldn't walk around without walking in a pond. So we had, wellies on, and plants were just everywhere. Plants are pretty resilient. As long as they're not sitting in water, they can be knocked over and they can be pushed around. You just pick them back up and set them back in their spot, and they're usually okay. It causes a lot of work, though, and I think that's the position they were in.
Yeah.
Like, I got to go retrieve all the plants that floated downstream, but they had a bunch of people show up and volunteer to help them out and get everything set back. So I think they were up and going, operational, back to normal by that weekend, which was really awesome. It's never fun when those kinds of things happen, and you feel like, especially right in the middle of it, you feel like this is it.
I will never financially recover from this.
I'm going to throw in the towel right now because I'm done. I'm done with this weather garbage.
It's really tough because you can look at the situation when you're in the midst of it, and it just feels like you don't know when the bleeding is going to stop.
Yeah.
And you kind of just feel like this is the end,
Yeah. Luckily, garden people, the community is a really good one. And I think they felt that pretty strongly, which is encouraging to anyone. Vanessa said, how come the maples are in pots? Will they be planted outside eventually? They're in pots because I like them in pots, and they do well in pots in our area, and a lot of times they do better in pots in here in our area than they do in the ground. Will they be planted outside eventually? Probably not. The next video was planting 3 full sun containers for summer. That was a short video. I remember watching it back. I'm like, why didn't I do more? Maybe we started filming that one real late, or
I don't know.
I don't know. It was nice and relaxing, though. Only
Yeah.
3 pots. It's like a half hour
Yeah.
worth of work. Trevor said, seeing that you're changing out all the soil in the planters, you aren't changing out all the soil in the planters makes me feel better about my plans to do the same this year. I've relaxed my rules on a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's all about balance and doing what, I don't know, what makes you happy and what makes you, I don't feel good about your space. If you feel good about changing out all of your soil, which I used to feel better about that, then go for it. Then over time I realized we're fertilizing these things once a week, like without fail, once a week. They're getting plenty of nutrients. I need to top off. I always top up the pots with fresh soil, but I'm not going to replace all of it. It's just kind of unnecessary. Unless there was a spider mite problem. If I had a spider mite problem somewhere, I'd probably toss all of that soil. Could I ask why you didn't top them off with compost instead of potting mix? I was thinking the compost would charge up the soil a bit more, but would it compact too much over the season? Well, we'll have that experiment coming. We're running an experiment a little bit, and you'll see about it in tomorrow's video on exactly that, using compost versus potting soil. We'll see who wins.
I win.
Chris said, looks amazing. What are those beautiful yellow plants next to the new mangave? Those are the Sesky Gold Dwarf Birch. They're an awesome plant. I think they top out at 3 to 4 feet tall and wide, and they're just this bright gold color. Just a very bright spot in the garden, and they've done really well over there. I have 3 planted in that space, and then I planted one near the pond, and I probably should plant more because it's got kind of a natural sort of look to it. It's perfect for the pond area. Brian said that mangave is absolutely beautiful, and that color is outstanding. Will that be okay in your winter? No, it will not. We will have to take that out of the container or probably take it out of the container. We won't be able to move that pot. I don't think we can get close enough to it.
If we drive on the grass.
So we possibly could move the pot. It will need heat during the winter. So that was the Catch a Wave mangave.
You know, it's so thick. I wonder if we could use the pinchers.
Ooh.
Do you think it would crack the concrete?
Like the base of that concrete pillar is crumbling away.
Yeah, the base. But if you just take the top, because the top is not connected to the base.
Yeah.
If you just,
no, I mean the base of the foot of the urn.
Oh.
Is crumbling away.
Well, that won't make a difference because you're not.
I just think it's like kind of brittle, and I don't want to.
If you grab it by the flute.
Maybe if you pad the pinchers. Yeah. Like really pad the pinchers. I kind of
think that'd be the easiest way to move it. If you just put a bunch of burlap on the pinchers.
I worry about those pinchers though, because I see a lot. It goes. Like, can you control?
Yeah, you can. If you have a lot of time to spare and you're just like easing it, because the hydraulics, you're kind of. I'm afraid you get it too close and then pinch the pot. Yeah. Anyway, it can't handle our winters, so we'll have to move it somewhere. But the mangave collection, the new one from Proven Winners, is pretty awesome. They've been working on that for a long time.
They have, and that one's the Catch a Wave. I just planted some gorgeous ones at my parents' house yesterday, and I've got 3 more varieties, I think, to disperse around. They're just such fun plants to work with, and they're structurally like the most gorgeous thing. And no maintenance. They'll look like that all season, and I won't have to do anything to them.
How often will you water that pot? Like once a week?
Probably, and check it maybe twice a week in the hot, like 100+ degree days in the summer. But even then, it kind of wants to stay on the dry side. But it can tolerate. It said somewhere, I was reading about it, maybe in the informational pamphlet, it was saying that you can water it kind of like a hosta, and if you do, it will grow a little faster if it has more moisture, as opposed to resenting you for it and starting to rot like a traditional agave might do.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So they're a little more adaptable that way, which makes them easier to use in conjunction with other plants in mixed container sort of situations. Sustain Betty said, so excited to see this year's mix for these containers. Are you still thinking about moving the rose in the rose garden, or would it be safer to move them in the fall? Probably safer to move them later on, now that they're all starting to come back and leaf out. Plus I planted tomatoes in there in the back half of it. I just thought, you know what, since we're not sure what we're going to do with this space at this point, I might fill in some dead holes. Like there's a couple of roses that did not come back. So I might fill in those holes just to have something in those holes. But I don't think I'm going to plant any extra stuff in there until we figure out what we're going to do. Yeah. It might stay exactly the same, or we might shift things around a little bit.
There might be a hedge of boxwoods around it.
Yeah, there might be. make it more my style out there.
I feel like that would make you happy, and you should just do it.
It would make me so happy. And you know what would make me so happy about it? Is in the wintertime. It's such a barren landscape out there.
Yeah.
It's barren and it doesn't look pretty. If we had boxwood hedging and the benches and then an eventual whatever in the center, maybe a fountain or maybe a tree or something like that, or maybe a real pretty just raised bed that we plant up, that would be also very pretty. I feel like it would be way prettier than it is now.
Yeah.
It's pretty in the season once it's mulched. It looks pretty in when there's flowers in there, but you'll still have flowers in there.
Yeah.
And my whole MO right now is like, I don't need to have mass production. Mass production I've done, and mass production is fun, but I don't need to do it that way. And there's nothing saying that I have to continue doing it that way. My brain kind of goes that way though. You know, sometimes when you start going in a certain direction, you think, well, I just need to keep going in that direction, but that's not true. You need to make it work for you. And if I just plant, you know, half the amount of zinnias, I'll be fine.
Sure.
Half the amount of dahlias, I'll be fine. It'll still be a gorgeous space. And maybe we'll have another flower garden somewhere else one day.
I think if it makes you happy, you should do it. I mean, because that's basically what you tell every gardener.
I know.
Is like, if it makes you, and if it's not bringing you joy, pull it out.
Right.
Like, rip out that thing that's not, if it's not making you happy, make it go away, you know?
I know. But, you know, I mentioned it in a video last week. And the consensus was, don't do it.
Oh, really?
It was largely. Everyone's like, don't do it. I'm like, but why? It'd be awesome. You guys will see. If we do it, you'll see. Okay, next one is from Detroit Duchess. Said, I miss when you and Aaron would do the container challenges.
Oh.
Whoa, timely. That would be fun with all the new varieties of plants. Did your grapes bounce back from the cold snap? I would say the grapes are about 75% back. I think there's maybe one arm that I trained that got completely taken in that freeze, but everything else seems to be pulling through. And I think the grapes will be productive enough that I can train a new arm pretty quickly. I'm hoping. Lisa said, I too use the Proven Winner slow release fertilizer when planting flowering annuals. Question, how soon after planting should I start a liquid fertilizer regimen? So we just planted ours up and we did it that day. We did our first application of fertilizer because Aaron, you were like, why? Because I said we could start 1 week from today. We'll start our fertilizer regimen, which is what I would do because it just eliminates a little bit of work that first day because they're just freshly planted. You know, let them have a chance to sit there. But there's no reason why you can't start it right away.
Well, you can do it while they're in their plant cans.
Yeah, which I did.
And you should be doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, like the garden center should be using fertilizer. I know like your parents don't do it all the time because they're trying to bring in annuals and sell them within the same week. In which case it's kind of like, well, you know.
Usually later on in the season, like the straggler plants that haven't made it,
those you gotta fertilize.
Those you fertilize. Yep. Jennifer said, does Proven Winners sometimes change their naming of their annuals? There was previously a Superbena Imperial Blue. Is that the same as this one called Cobalt? Usually if there's a name change, there's been an improvement. Usually.
Also, plants will degrade over time. Like they don't stay as strong, or they have to go back to the original strain, like the original mother plant or something like that. And so like, plants don't, you can't keep making a plant forever, I guess. Some of these hybrids. Right.
Duke said, are you still fighting budworms? Do you spray before you plant them, including Superbenas? I think we will forever be fighting budworms until there is a budworm-resistant strain of Supertunia and Superbell that comes out. We do not have to spray Superbenas. That's the wonderful thing. Superbenas are just, they're awesome. And so we've planted a lot more of those throughout the last few years because we don't have to do as much maintenance. But Supertunias and Superbells have to be sprayed once a week with BT or Captain Jack's Dead Bug in order to control the budworm. Some other things that people have issues with budworm, I think geraniums.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I thought about that because I've got like 300 geraniums in the greenhouse right now. So I should probably be thinking or watching those plants at least for budworms. And this is the last video. It's planting beautiful pink annuals in the landscape, plus my tomatoes and peppers. So we planted the Surefire rose begonias under the maples on the west side.
That'll be pretty.
Yeah, I think it'll be gorgeous. Supertunia Vista bubblegum in the south garden around the loop, like in front of the Limelight Prime hydrangea hedge. Last year we had Superbena sparkling amethyst there. I planted 80 of those. I planted 26. Supertunia Vista bubblegum. There were still people who complained.
About how many it was?
About, like, well, 26 plants is still $150. I'm like, well, times that by 3. And, yeah, it's way better.
Depends on where you're buying them, too.
Yeah.
But also, like, I mean, you plant it, it's like a once a year expense. And that's a big area. For a lot of people, that would be like their whole front flower bed.
Well, the whole point was I had gone from 80 plants down to 26. Like,
yeah.
Sometimes I just don't have words for the kinds of things people can think of to be upset about.
People spend money on all sorts of different things. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look at the cost of clothing and food and just kind of everything's expensive, and you just, I don't know. Mm-hmm. It just depends on what you want.
Yeah. Do you want to see the hole in my shirt? Because the shirt has a huge hole, but I don't show my armpit very often, so I still wear it. And then I can plant more things out in the garden.
Yeah.
Right? I should patch that.
Yeah.
Janhar said, love to add color to my garden with annuals, but cost limits how much I can do. So this year I started all my annuals from seed, which is awesome. I love that. I started several flats of supertunias.
No, you did
not. No, you did not. But obviously I couldn't get the Proven Winners Vistas in seed.
She probably just started petunias.
Yeah. Maybe waves or something like that. Can I make the supertunias as full as the vistas by pinching them back and fertilizing regularly, or will they be leggier? You can pinch back. That's a good idea. And fertilizing regularly is a good idea. And then just making sure that they have consistent water, and you should be good to go. Supertunias, there are no varieties available from seed. Or by seed.
I have heard though, and people have even sent pictures. Well, okay, one person sent me a picture one time. Well, they sent you a picture. I saw the email. And their supertunia had gone to seed. Mm-hmm. If you were to harvest those seeds and try to use them, they're probably they're probably not any good, right?
Well, you might get something
like a variant of that.
Yeah, all of theirs are tissue culture, so it's not.
They're cuttings.
Yeah, they're not from seed.
Yeah.
So
you wouldn't get the same plant probably if you did try to grow
and most
seeds.
of them have been bred not to produce seed.
Right.
So you're most of the time not going to see.
Yeah.
Unless it's a random fluke sort of
Sure.
a situation. But either way, you'll get nicer looking plants by keeping a good care routine, like you've mentioned here. Joy said, is it good to plant tomatoes close to your roses? Don't they suffer from the same types of fungal issues? I'm thinking about the tomatoes spreading problems to the roses. Since you're in a drier area, is it not much of a problem? Yeah, being in a drier area in the summertime, it really does cut down on those types of issues in our garden for sure. In the spring, we have to think about it. You know, during like tree bloom time, we deal with like fire blight. We deal with leaf curl spreading around when it's nice and rainy in the springtime. But you know, I'm not worried about my tomatoes being close to my roses like at all. In fact, it didn't even give me pause to do it. And I know there's wisdom in companion planting. A lot of people swear by it. It's not something I've really adhered to or studied. I think there's a lot of wisdom in crop rotation for sure, so that plants are utilizing different nutrients in the soil or taxing the soil less than maybe the crop you had in there before it. I also think, you know, having host plants is a good idea. So if you have aphid issues, you plant Brussels sprouts, Nicotiana, calendula. Those are like trap crops for aphids. And I just usually have a little patch of them somewhere, and I just let the bugs go. I don't even spray them on those plants. I just let them go on those plants, and the rest of my crops stay pretty clean. Companion planting is just something I'm not really delved into super deep, and I just usually don't think about it. I'm like, is that an open space? Yes, let's plant something there. I actually thought when I was planting the tomatoes, I had tomatoes in there the year before last. So this will be 2 years ago. Should be good. Eleni Emma said, I always enjoy watching your videos, Laura. I've learned so much from you. That's awesome. Could you have planted coleus instead of the begonias? Much love from Greece. I thought about that. Coleus is beautiful. Coleus gets pretty big.
Yeah.
And I really want, and in that situation, I don't know if it would actually get as big as it would in a sunnier spot. Like the Color Blaze tags say 24 to 40 inches on all of them. So I'm guessing in a shadier spot, they say closer to 24. Sunny spot, they get closer to 40. In that area, I don't want anything that's going to grow above the boxwoods. Because I want the boxwoods to stay the primary focal point for the structure in that area. So it needs to be something that stays a little shorter. And I don't know. Coleus would be beautiful, though.
Most of the Proven Winners coleus seem like they get pretty good size.
Dude, they're beastly coleus.
Yeah.
My goodness. Lather, and Lace said, I got my Laura's Edition auger. Does it need a 60-volt drill? A 20-volt drill is perfectly sufficient. You only need a 60-volt when you're doing the 5, 7, 9-inch augers. E. Sullivan said, the lane where you planted the surefire begonias is my favorite section of your garden. See, I want like, everybody needs to think of that west side and apply the same thoughts they have about the west side to the cut flower garden. That's what needs to happen. Because we showed a flashback of what it looked like when we first moved in.
You need to plant trees out there too.
Well, I know. I have it planned out.
What if you did? What if you just like kind of shifted gears and actually planted more trees out there?
Well, I have it designed to put a tree right in the center of each one of the quadrants. Not a huge one.
I mean like a tree.
Well, then you wouldn't be able to grow full sun stuff. And I still want to
do it somewhere else.
I still want to plant like vegetable crops and things like that out there. How were you able to plant under the maple tree without hitting roots? I was hitting some roots, but they were a little itty bitty ones. There was one spot, and I think it was on the very first maple we planted out there, where I actually had to shift my auger over because I could tell like I'm on something substantial here and there's no cutting through it. So I just shifted where that plant was going to go. And really where those are planted in those wells, the only part that matters to get them right is along the front brick border. As long as you have the same amount, so they count the same amount, and I think I did, what did I do in there? 7 along the front. Everything behind it doesn't matter because once they grow up, they all kind of grow together and you can't really tell, but as long as the front ones stay that nice straight line, yeah, the rest of the pattern doesn't matter. I just said that like 4 times in a row. Sorry. Okay. Dana said, isn't the Rudbeckia row where you had foxglove, so you didn't plant your potatoes there? So why plant the edible peppers in that space? Because I forgot. So, and I couldn't find any information that supported foxglove actually leaching anything into the soil. You laugh. I know.
Well, it's so
just
funny that people
remember
that.
I know.
Because like I probably would have forgotten too.
But it was a big deal to me the day that I was planting things.
Yeah, it was. You were all concerned about it, and you asked me like 5 times what I thought about it.
I know.
And I was like,
and you were like, just plant your potatoes there. It doesn't matter.
I was like, I don't know. It's probably fine. Just go for it.
I think I just needed to get enough distance between that day and those concerns and now, or the day I planted the peppers. Yeah, I can't find any research or scientific proof that that's what foxglove do. So I'm just going to go with it with the peppers at this point. And then Christy said, this was an especially heavy year for the helicopter seeds on my silver maple. I always get them, but this year was off the charts. It felt like a full-on invasion. Of all the maples you have planted, are any of them seedless? Yes. Is that a feature you look for? Not necessarily. Your areas around your maples always look so tidy, so just wondering if you have specific recommendations. I'm considering Autumn Fantasy for some orange color, but not totally against the idea of choosing a red maple. We plant a lot of things, and we don't really consider, most of the time what things are going to drop, because everything has something, usually. The red maples and red/silver maples that we have are pretty good. I mean, the Autumn Blaze don't drop anything. The Red Point don't drop anything. We do have, is it Pacific Sunset that we planted around the Hartley? Those will have helicopters.
Well, they have. They may not always. The same as her.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like there are some years that are worse than other years. Mm-hmm. And so some years it's like, oh, this was not a bad helicopter year.
Right. We had a lot from our maple right by our back shade porch. Mm-hmm. And that tree was one of the reasons why we chose the trees around the Hartley. That tree is awesome. It's always awesome. Mm-hmm. It's never stressed. It always looks a beautiful dark green glossy leaf, even in the heat of summer. And the helicopters are just something you deal with, Autumn Fantasy maples are beautiful, though. We should plant one somewhere.
Yeah, got space.
And you guys, that is it for today's recap video. There's nothing else we need to...
Nope, 20% off power planter.
Yeah.
Get it while supplies last.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to head back out and do some more projects. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you're having a great start to your week, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.